In our international press review this morning, that's with Elena Casas-Montañez. Very good morning to you.
Hello again,
but that's a little bit further down. Let's start with Pakistan. This is a story that we have been covering in our news bulletins. A Pakistani journalist who has been killed there, and we spoke to our correspondent Mathieu Mabar over there. He does say Pakistan is a very dangerous place for journalists. Just take us through which article you've got there for us.
Yeah, I've got an article from the Pakistani paper Dawn, which tells us that this case is unfortunately far from isolated in Pakistan. At least 70 journalists have been killed and about 2,000 injured in the line of duty over the last 10 years. Now they're asking why the country has become quite so dangerous, and they blame both the Taliban and the army for carrying out targeted killings of journalists who have published things they didn't like. Of course, the journalist who was found dead yesterday morning had written a number of articles investigating the possible relationship between the Pakistani army and Islamic militants, which obviously was terribly embarrassing to the Pakistani military. So the Dawn editorialist really finds that it's almost, they believe that the military caused him to disappear, and they particularly blame the former President Musharraf for having created a regime of impunity which allowed the media to be censored quite easily and allowed those who targeted journalists to escape without censure, the paper says.
As I said earlier, we did speak to Mathieu Mabar, our correspondent over there earlier. He did know this man who disappeared, Syed Salim Shahzad, and did say it appeared that he was onto something big, and that might have provoked that killing there in Pakistan. Well, let's move on to something completely different now. Still with the international press, of course. Spain this time, and they are not happy about those cucumbers that we've seen in our news bulletin just a few minutes ago.
The cucumbers are on the front page of all the Spanish papers today. They're calling the response by the German authorities xenophobic and over the top. The right-wing paper El Mundo says that Andalusian agriculture has already lost about 200 million euros since this problem began last Thursday. But for them, it's not only the Germans who are at fault. They're also blaming the socialist government of José Luis Rodríguez Zapatero. They say he should have flown straight to Hamburg to take the problem into his own hands as soon as it exploded last week, and then he should have gone to Brussels to fight a compensation deal for those Andalusian farmers who will be losing all of this money over the coming months. Of course, the paper is quite right-wing and will use most excuses to attack the Prime Minister, but they may have a point here. The Spanish government has been quite quiet about the cucumber controversy.
The cucumber crisis, and El Mundo calls that the crisis del pepino. I love that. That just sounds good and very exciting. Let's move on from the cucumber crisis, as it is called around here, to, as we just mentioned there, Sepp Blatter going for the FIFA presidency again, and he is still on the front pages of the international press, is he?
Yes, in most of the British press, certainly. He's very unpopular among the British newspapers, and the Sun's headline writers have excelled themselves today.
Oh dear, here we go.
Despot, the difference on their front page. They've got a picture of Blatter and one of Gaddafi, and obviously they're making comparisons. Of course, football corruption isn't really on the same level as killing thousands of civilians, but nevertheless, the Sun says both are dictators and will refuse to step down until someone forces them out. So they're very keen to have Blatter forced out. The paper quotes Prince William as saying that he wants him to go. That's relevant because he was kind of the face of England's failed World Cup bid. So
oh dear, the Sun. Prince William combined with Sepp Blatter.
Interesting comparison, but you can see at least how strong the anti-Blatter sentiment is in the British press.
Mm-hmm. Well, there you go. Very strange combination there you saw on our screens between Muammar Gaddafi and Sepp Blatter. Let's move on. American papers now are still fascinated with Sarah Palin. She's back in action, isn't she, really, on the political scene there over in the US?
She's on a national tour that looks very like the beginning of a presidential campaign, and there's a Huffington Post story today which is asking, what does Sarah Palin actually want? Is this really a bid for the presidency? And the Post writer concludes that no, she's trying to boost her own media career. They say she's trying to remain politically relevant, retain influence, and of course make some money, because the more her profile raises, the better fees she can get from people like Fox News, and the more donations she can attract, which of course helps her remain a political player. But the Post doesn't think that she actually is running for the presidency, but lots of other American journalists disagree with them today.
Still a fascinating story, isn't it? As usual, the race for the Republican primaries, followed by the election, of course, in the US in 2012. Thank you very much to Elena Casas-Montañez for the International Press Review.
Thank you.